in a society that tends to fake things a lot. This one was real. As a matter of fact, it was so real that this guy gets on the microphone and he says, "Is Paul Watson in the auditorium?" And I'm thinking, this guy's sold me out. I'm thinking, that's not what good buddies do. They don't sell you out. And I go down, and my friend is on the floor. He's got both hands in the air, and God's presence is there. And he says, "Do you know this kid?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my best friend, David Beeson." And he says, "I don't know anything, but I think you're just supposed to pray for him." As soon as I touched his hands, I was out. I was out till 2:30 in the morning. David and I, we kind of came to about the same time. I guess you could call it coming to. I don't know a better word for it. That experience made my friend walk away from Christ. And that experience solidified my relationship with Jesus. It was years later before that seed finally took place in my life where it became a fruit-bearing tree. But I think it's interesting. There are people who experience God and they walk away from it. But here's the interesting part about people who experience God and walk away from it. You cannot deny that He's God. When you experience God, you cannot ever deny that He's God. You cannot ever deny that He's good, and you cannot ever deny that He's real. 2,000 pigs end up at the bottom of the sea. That's a lot of bacon. Right? Verses 18 through 20. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, and he said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how He has had mercy on you." So the man went away, and he began to tell the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. This man spent the rest of his life preaching the gospel. You see, when God does something miraculous in your life, it doesn't always mean that you're supposed to go onto the ministry field. It doesn't always mean that you're going to go become a missionary or that you're going to become a pastor of a church. As a matter of fact, for the average person, God's going to move in your life, and what God requires of you is that you would go share what God has done in you. That you are a walking miracle. No matter what your circumstances are, that because Christ in you has changed you, you're not the same person you were. God has done a miracle in your life just like He did to this man. And when God does a miracle in your life, you got to share it. You can't hold it back. Because, guys, we live in a world where it is both physical and it is spiritual. Satan is on the move, and he's moving to wreck people's lives, to wreck people's marriages. And he does everything he can all of the time. But do not miss the fact that God is on the move. And He has shown up, and He has come to reclaim all that the enemy has stolen. Right? God has power and authority over everything. God gives freedom when we allow His authority to rule in our hearts and in our lives. And God commands us to be careful with how we use that power and authority in our lives. That we're called to help people, not hurt people, right? Here's what I want to do. I want to invite the ministry team forward. I want to invite the worship team forward. And during this last song, this is very much our DNA. This is very much typical Canyon View Vineyard. That if God is speaking to you, and you need prayer or you need prayer for someone, I'm going to ask that you would come forward. That tonight that we'd walk in the power and the authority of Christ. That we would kneel in the power and the authority of Christ. That we would proclaim Him God. And that whatever's going on in your life, or whatever you need prayer for family, for friends, whatever, that during this last song that you would just come forward and get prayer. Amen?